Fun fact, these earrings I wore on my wedding day. I like keeping artifacts from the past and working them into my daily life. The reason for that is that we're all made up of our past, and we don't have to banish our past. We don't have to get rid of our past in order to move forward. We can incorporate it into who we are and learn to live with our past. That's some of the work we do here at Lauren LaRusso Coaching. How do we move forward and incorporate our past into who we are and into our story? So this week's letter is from Amanda. And Amanda writes, "Dear Lauren, my husband and I are both 39 years old and have been married almost 12 years and have 3 amazing young kids. We just had our 3rd child last summer. A few months ago, I got the sense that something was feeling off energetically in our marriage. I discovered shortly after this, after peeking at his text messages, which I normally do not do, but had an odd feeling, that he has been having somewhat of a texting relationship with a 28-year-old woman at work. While most of the text exchanges were work-related, I was shocked to find my husband being very complimentary to her, telling her she does an amazing job at work, how he can't wait to see her, and even told her she will one day find a man that treats her like the queen she is. I also found out they go to lunch together, although there are usually 1 to 2 other people joining them too. This obviously made me upset. I confronted him and he told me it's not what I think it is, and they're just work friends. Of course, I don't buy it, and we both agree to do individual and couples therapy to work through things. We otherwise have a strong connection and respectful relationship, so I'm not sure what went wrong here. I feel so betrayed. We both tell each other we want our marriage to work, but I can't shake this betrayal and this emotional affair he seems to be entertaining. He's a manager and supervises this woman, so the text exchanges are probably still happening. Nothing physical has taken place, but I still can't trust him 100%. I've communicated to him how I feel and that I think he should stop texting her and try to find another job. While he acknowledges how I feel and says he is sorry, he doesn't see this as big of a deal as I see it. Is there hope for us, and what should be the next step to take here? Thank you. Sincerely, Amanda." Okay, so first of all, Amanda, your Spidey senses were engaged enough to feel that something was, as you say, energetically off in your marriage. And I want to highlight the importance of that. You noticed that there was something shifting in the connection, in the intimacy, in your husband's demeanor, behavior, whatever it was enough for you to notice. And so I want you to validate your own reality in terms of the impact that perhaps this text relationship was having on your marriage. Because here's the thing, what was happening between you and your husband was so upsetting to you because those are things that are meant to be in your marriage, and they're not meant to be given to someone outside of the marriage. And that's why you feel so betrayed, because ultimately he was flattering her. He was flirting and raising her up and giving her attention. And those are not things that someone says to another person and can just feign complete innocence about. And I think it's really important to level with ourselves about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. You know, if you're a big flirt and you're married, well, you need to own the fact that you're a big flirt, because that's not really appropriate to a marriage, and it's going to open a door, or it's going to create mixed messages or leave you vulnerable. If you're someone who was seeking or liking the attention of someone outside of your marriage and you engaged in some inappropriate text messages to kind of stoke that energy between you, or that connection or that admiration between you, the strongest thing a person can do is cop to that and admit that. Because in that moment of admittance, you stop telling yourself the lie that keeps you at risk. It keeps you in a place where your denial keeps you a little bit, drunk, and it starts to create this false narrative for yourself about boundaries that would not be okay if they were flipped. So here's what I want you to do. you ask, where do we go from here? So it's great that you guys are open to individual and couples counseling. I think that, if you haven't started that, get in. And he, in individual counseling, needs to ask himself, what is that relationship at work doing for me? Because it's doing something. And so what I don't like, it's less about the text that he sent, and it's more about the way he's responding, which is the problem. That relationship with his colleague is doing something for him, and it is not completely innocent. And I don't know where it would have gone if you hadn't snooped and caught his text messages. This is the time where he needs to come back down to earth and acknowledge that he was doing something hurtful to the marriage and to you, and inappropriate and not protective of his marriage. Because someone who's speaking like that to another person is sending the subliminal message, I don't respect my marriage enough to not hold a boundary. I don't respect my spouse enough, and I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable. He's 39. He's got 3 kids at home. You guys have been married for over a decade. I'm vulnerable. I like your attention. I like the exchange we have. I like that this relationship maybe fulfills a part of me professionally, intellectually. It's okay to have other relationships that fulfill and activate different parts of us, but we have to hold relationship appropriate boundaries around that. And so crossing into that territory where you're commenting on someone's singlehood, or you're commenting on how they should be treated in a relationship, that is sending a signal that you are vulnerable. Now, he probably has a ton of reasons to be vulnerable, and so do you. You guys are in that season of life, which is so critically difficult for couples. You have 3 kids. You can't even finish a sentence. You're exhausted at the end of the day. You're touched out. I don't know what your relationship looks like, but it sounds to me like you feel that it's realistically a good one, especially given the season of life you're in. And that's what I find a lot. There have to be realistic expectations based on the season of life, the demands on the individuals and the couple itself. And everyone needs to adjust to understand how much is pouring out of you every day, how much is pouring into you every day, and where are those things coming from, and where's the balance. So this is a critical time in which people step out of relationships or do something in order to fill a void, because it's a phase of life with a lot of voids in it, right? I mean, your mom, your dad, that's not very sexy most of the time. And kids really, really are wonderful, and they are really taxing on a marriage. They're really taxing on a relationship. So your husband needs to start getting a little bit more humbled and a little bit more honest about the inappropriateness of his engagement with the colleague and the impact this had on you. Go and get the book, Not Just Friends by Shirley Glass. And I want you to both read it. You can even do a book club where you each read like a section or a chapter together, and then you talk about it. And the premise of Not Just Friends is that all of these affairs start with a slow creep of boundaries. And it sounds like you caught your husband at the beginning of a slow creep of boundaries. So he's saying, it's nothing, no big deal. But what he was doing was the beginning of the slow creep of boundaries that leads to something more. So get that book and start a little book club together and start to learn about what happens over time in these relationships. And then here's the second exercise that I want you to do. And you can do this in couples therapy if you're having a hard time with it at home. Empathy tends to be one of the biggest difficulties for an unfaithful spouse because defenses are high, shame is high, guilt is high. I mean, who wants to be wrong in their relationship? Who wants to be kind of dressed down and having had done something that they're not proud of, right? Those defenses get in the way. And in your case, your husband is diminishing his behavior. This is an exercise that when I'm counseling and coaching my clients, unfaithful spouses have a lot of trouble with. And then we understand why they're having trouble moving forward and why they're having trouble actually healing the break in their relationship. I want the tables to be completely turned between you and your husband. You are the manager at work. You are the one who was texting a younger colleague. You are the one who said verbatim all of the things that he said. And so if they're not a big deal and he thinks they're not a big deal, okay, that's fine. But you have now said those exact same things to someone that you work with. How does he feel? This is not an exercise in like rhetorical questioning, like, how do you feel? No, like truly drop into the opposite, drop into the reverse. How does he feel picking up your phone and reading those text messages? What goes through his mind? What fears arise? What concerns arise? And most importantly, what would he need from you to feel safe and trusted in the relationship and to be able to trust the relationship again in light of the exact same behavior, but in the reverse? And I think when someone starts to quiet their defenses enough to drop into this exercise where they literally put on each other's shoes, suddenly a light bulb goes off. Oh, yep. Wow. That I would need this from you. I would need, to know that you were not seeing that person anymore. I would feel really insecure. I would need to have a lot of affirmation about our relationship and what it means to you. And I would need to see that in action. And I would need to see you invested. Whatever it is, let him come up with that. Because honestly, if I'm in session with a client and they can't truly come up with what it feels like and what they would need in response, they haven't done the exercise right. Because the minute they do this exercise, it's like a lightning bolt strikes. And suddenly, oh my God. Yeah, no, it's not okay. It's not okay. So we're here for you. You can always reach out for an individual or couples coaching session if you're stuck. And I hope this response to your letter helped. And I hope you guys can begin to repair whatever vulnerabilities were in your marriage or were within him, given the season of life or his unique background or experience in the relationship. I hope that he can do the work to solidify himself so that you two can protect your relationship again. Take care, Amanda.